Hi there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to this episode 2 of It's Time to Thrive. I am so excited that you have joined me on this episode, so I'm going to get straight into it. So, in this episode, obviously, in the last episode, we started looking at forward planning. So, what your life would look like if you didn't start taking any action, compared to what it would look like if you started to take that action. You know, who would you show up as? You know, what would be so different in your life? And I'm hoping just from doing that little strategy on its own is enough for your brain to start processing it and being like, oh my God, I need to make these changes. I need to make it a must. And that's where so many people, you know, where we go wrong, me and myself included. You know, I'm not here to preach and say, you know, oh, you should do this, because I would never do that. You know, I am very much one of these coaches that doesn't just walk the walk and talk the talk. I do both. You know, I've made mistakes, and this is why I just feel like my life experience has been very much of a roller coaster. And you know, there's definitely some things in there where I wish that somebody could have told me and I would have done things differently, and I sure as hell it wouldn't have taken me the amount of length of time that it's taken me to get to where I am today. And obviously this isn't the final end destination for myself. You know, I've still got great places to be going to, and so have you. So it's just about, you know, bringing awareness to it, because you just don't know the things that you don't know. And I just feel like it's so important that once we bring awareness and clarity to the situation of what is actually going on for you, that's when you start having these light bulb moments. You start having like these epiphany moments. I like to call them the great awakenings. And it makes you start to see things differently. It starts to get your brain like analysing the information, and your brain loves to come up with solutions. You know, your brain is optimized to try and find things and analyze that information and think, right, okay, so now I know this. I know that I'm heading towards pain, or I know that this is causing X, Y, and Z. I need to change that. I need to do things differently. And obviously, in the last episode, we spoke about fear. That's where so many people just stop in the tracks. And I just think it's so interesting, you know, obviously knowing what I know now. Obviously fear is false evidence appearing real, and we've covered that in the last episode. But I just think it's so important that we start to understand that anything that you've been going through in your life, if all of a sudden you start to question, you know, why didn't I go for that job promotion? Why didn't I go on that date? Why didn't I put myself out there on a dating site? It's because of that, and it also to do with our past conditioning as well. And obviously we're going to start covering more of that in the next episode as well. But I just think it's so interesting. You know, I've had so many people say, well, you know, they came to me because they wanted this, and then, you know, they didn't do anything about it. Like, what is up with them? And I just think, you know, I've spoken about it before in other of my courses. If you've followed me for quite some time, or if you've seen on social media posts, I talk about like the iceberg effect. So what we see on the top of the iceberg is obviously people's behaviours, things that people say. But what we don't see underneath this iceberg is the past conditioning, the thoughts, the past trauma, past experiences. We don't see what's going on underneath. And that's why I always say that people's behaviours or people's actions are not actually the true self of what's going on. And this is why sometimes so many people take things to heart, because they feel as if they're attacking that person, when actually what they're doing here is projecting their own past experiences onto that other person. So the next time that obviously happens to you, it's just important, and also become aware of that yourself. You know, we very much operate from that little inner child within, and if we've not healed, if we've not done the work to heal any past trauma, you know, and past trauma could be absolutely anything. I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I just feel as if like this needs to be covered in this part as well. But past trauma can be anything from, you know, obviously having abuse in our childhood. It could be being bullied. It may be, you know, trauma could be something as you went to a school play and your parents never showed up. That could be classed as trauma. Trauma could also be, your best friend stole your boyfriend. That is like all trauma. Okay, so you don't have to have severe trauma, and like be, in a war or have PTSD, or it doesn't have to be anything like great like that. It can be something so minute at the fact that your sister got a coat and you didn't. That could be seen as trauma. So it's anything that your brain at the time, it gives it a meaning. And when your brain gives it a negative meaning, and because obviously between the ages of 0 to 7 we're not able to process the emotions that's going on there, it's giving it a negative meaning, and that's what creates trauma. So obviously I'm going to get more into that over into the next episode, but I just think it's really, really important about understanding, where how people think and how people operate. So the next time where you think to yourself, okay, so why did that person all of a sudden overreact in that situation, you can take a step back and think, well, actually this had nothing to do with me. This had everything to do with them, and it's like their own personal trauma that's they're going through. And the same with yourself. So start becoming aware of this, little things that become like your triggers, anything that's really annoyed you. And when I say like triggered, that means like it's really riled you up and you start saying things that you probably shouldn't have said, or it could be a trigger where it's made you so angry and then you've lashed out, or you've done something like you've binged it, or you've gone for the wine bottle. It might be that you start self-harming, really self-destruct mode. That's a trigger. So it's about us starting to like identify those and start becoming more aware of that. So in this episode, really what we're going to start looking at is, obviously we've looked at the forward planning and looking at what your life would look like if we started taking the action steps. But I really wanted to cover in this episode, the areas of your life where, what are we wanting to change? Now, I've worked with so many clients, and me myself included, I always used to be one of those people that I could quite easily tell you what I didn't want. I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't want to eat healthy. I didn't want to have a loser of a boyfriend. I didn't want to have been an unfulfilled job. Those, for example. But when somebody actually said to me, okay, that's fine, but actually what do you want? That's all of a sudden when I was a bit like, oh my God, I don't actually know. And if you think about it, it's a little bit like, we get into our car and we've got a sat nav, and yet we don't put a destination in that sat nav, but yet then we're driving around expecting that we're going to get to the end destination, but yet we don't know where we're going because there's no destination in the sat nav. And this is what so many of us are like. We're going round and round in a circle and we're feeling stuck and we're feeling stagnant, but yet we haven't programmed our sat nav inside of us to actually pick out that end goal. What are we wanting to achieve? Humans are programmed so bad to just think negatively. If you think about it, obviously our brain, he's like 1 billion years old, and when we were a caveman, we needed to feel safe. We were constantly on the lookout. We were constantly in survival mode of thinking, oh, saber-toothed tiger is going to come and get us. But our brain has not adapted to 2024, at the time of that I'm recording this. Our brain is still not adapted to that. So we are constantly on the lookout for attack. We're constantly on the lookout for threats. We're constantly, feeling as if somebody's going to attack us. So it's no wonder really that when somebody says to us like, okay, let's start focusing on, what do we want? We are so programmed on focusing on the negative things. And this is where we need to start making that shift, okay? We need to start making the shift of, rather than focusing on what you don't want, we need to start focusing on what you do want, because whatever you are focusing on is what you will feel. Okay, so if you're focusing on the things that you don't have, you're going to feel frustrated, you're going to feel lack, you're going to feel annoyed, angry. But yet, if you focus on the things that you do want, that's going to make you feel more happier. It's going to feel more, enlightened. You're going to feel more excited, because what's wrong is always available, but so is what's right. So, what you're choosing to focus on right now is going to really impact how you're showing up. Okay. And also being mindful of the words that you are using. I know I've done in one of my courses before called Glow Up, and it's about, being careful about the things that we say about ourselves. Your word is your wand, and it is very, very true. So if you're constantly looking at yourself in the mirror and criticizing, the way you look, your appearance, the clothes, your bit of cellulite that you've got, that is very much going to impact the way that you feel, and how you feel then creates your actions or inactions, and that's going to create the results. Okay, so it's really important that you're mindful about the words that you're saying about yourself, and not just in the area of how you look in your appearance, but the words that you're using when it comes to like relationships, work, finances. I spoke to a client the other day, and she actually said to me that from watching one of my training modules, she was absolutely gobsmacked about the words that she was using, and she was constantly in the mindset. So this lady was working in the network marketing space, and she'd seen one of the videos that I'd created. And just from, again, this is what I'm saying, about awareness. It's about having awareness. So she'd watched this training video, and I'd mentioned in it about, again, being mindful of the words that we're using. And, if we're constantly saying that I don't have enough, or I can't afford it, or it's never going to happen, that's what you're going to create more into your life, because that's the vibration that you're putting out. So when we're in the vibration of lack, and desperation, neediness, that's what we're going to attract into our life. We're not going to be an energetic match to call in, a life partner, a new home, more money, whatever it is that you're wanting to have in your life right now. And when she watched that training, it's like all of a sudden, like what I mentioned, she had an epiphany moment, and all of a sudden she was like, oh my goodness, that is what I'm saying. And when she started becoming aware of that, she started changing the way that she was speaking. And obviously, yes, that's going to take some conscious work, okay? And we can do this a lot quicker by doing the subconscious work, which is, I'll start covering again this, in the next episode. But just from that alone, she'd not done any subconscious work. She had just become consciously aware of what was coming out of her mouth. She had the biggest sales in like that week, just from listening to that training. And she'd had like a quiet month all month, and she was like thinking like, where's the money coming in? How am I going to be able to afford my bills? So can you see, from just that little shift, just from the tiny words that she's been saying, it's had a massive impact, because she's not in that energy anymore. So this is why we've got to be aware of the words that we are using and the thoughts that we are having. And one of the things that I love to teach, so this is another strategy that you can use, and again, I'm going off on a tangent here, but I truly feel like there's so many light bulb moments in this, and if you've not been writing it down, like, oh my goodness, you need to go back and like re-listen to this module, because there's so many epiphany moments just in this one alone that's going to give you the shifts and the realizations for you to actually start thriving rather than just surviving. But it's about, like I say, if you start becoming aware of the thoughts that you are having on a continuous basis. So one of the things that I love to do is get a piece of paper, and for 24 hours, or do it longer if you feel like you must, but just for 24 hours, every time you have a thought, write it down. And you're going to start to see there should be a pattern, okay? So scientists have proven that we have over 70,000 thoughts per day. Now, 90% of those thoughts are going to be negative, and also they're on repeat. So they're like on a loop system. So this thought that you're having, it's guaranteed that you'll have had it at least 5 times already that day, and the day before, and the day before that. But you're not going to be aware of it until you start doing this work. So now that I've been doing this healing work since January 2021, I am so in tune with the thoughts that I'm having. And I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm off again. And I'm quickly able to shift and pivot and think to myself, right, okay, so that thought is not very productive. Is it 100% true? No, it's not. Right, okay, let's change that. So that is just a really good strategy that you can start implementing straight away to start becoming aware, okay? And it's about, finding the evidence as to like counteract whatever it is that you are believing. Because I can guarantee the thoughts that you are having are 99% not true. So it's about, finding the evidence to counteract whatever it is you are believing about yourself. So the way that we're going to shift, the way that we're going to thrive, okay, so I've mentioned obviously in this episode about what it is that you are focusing on, but it's about getting clear of all areas of your life of where you are wanting to make those shifts. And also it's important to not just focus on one area, because why would you focus on one area when you can have it all, okay? And I really want that to land with you, because so many people believe that they have to have this or that. They can't have both. But what if I was to tell you that you can have both? Okay? Make that one of your conscious thoughts that you have on an everyday basis, that I can have it all. I do not have to choose. I don't have to choose whether or not I have a relationship or a successful business. I don't have to choose whether or not I have to have kids or I have a thriving work career. Make that decision that you get to have both, okay? And just watch the magic happen. So what I want you to do is like start looking at all areas of your life, and I want you to start like rating those out of 10, okay? So areas of your life could be, if you've got your own business, obviously business, or it could be work, friendships, hobbies, lifestyle, fitness, health, money. What else could you have? I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Social life could be one of them. It could be acts of kindness, so like charity, okay? And what I want you to do is, out of a scale of 0 to 10, so 0 is where you are not fulfilled, you're really lacking in this area, you're really dissatisfied, and 10 is where, yeah, this is amazing, I don't really need to make any changes, okay? So that's the first thing that I want you to do. So I want you to get clear on all areas of your life and start ranking them between 0 to 10, okay? So pause this and then obviously do that if you want to, or obviously you can wait until this episode's finished and then do the task. It's whatever is easier for you. Okay, so then the next part of this task is then to start looking at what do you want that area of your life to look like? Okay, so what do you want it to look like? So say for example, if you have put in there, so for your social life, okay, so I'm going to use this as an example. So for social life, you've put maybe a 2. Okay. So think about where you are right now in your social life. So say, for example, you don't have a social life. Your social life is literally taking the kids to school and that is it. Okay. So you've got 0 for your social life. Okay. So where do you want that to go? So what do you want your social life to look like? So again, it's going to be different for everybody. So maybe for your social life, you want to be going out at least once a month. Maybe you just want to, have a coffee morning twice a week. whatever that looks like for you, I want you to like get clear, okay? And really start to like think about the feelings that that would bring for you. So how would it make you feel, okay? So once you've done that for all areas of your life as well, I want you to cover self-care, because I feel like that definitely needs to be in this as well. So make sure self-care is one of those categories. But once you've started to do that, okay, I want you to start looking at and asking yourself, what little changes can you implement immediately? So what like little action steps can you take that's going to help you achieve that? And remember, it doesn't have to be big. So maybe, for example, if we go back to the example of the coffee morning, it could be, for example, just researching, where's the best places to go for coffee. It could be finding a Facebook group to see where, there might already be like a monthly meeting or whatever that you can find, and add yourself to that group. It doesn't have to be anything big, okay? But what we're doing here is we're starting to get this vision of where we want to go, but also it's important we take the action, because I once heard a story about somebody playing the lottery, and the other guy said to him, about, well, I've never won on the lottery, I don't know why you waste your time playing it, because I've never won. And then the guy turned around to him and said, okay, so how many draws do you put on a week? And he said, oh, I don't do any. I don't buy a ticket. So, and the guy was a bit like, okay, so you're moaning that you've not won, but then you don't play. Like, it just does not make sense. So we need to make sure that we're taking some form of action. And I get that sometimes it can be scary, but remember, it's fear, the false evidence appearing real as to why you can't take that action. And it doesn't have to be big. It can be something small. Well, how do we get to the top of the stairs? We take one step at a time. It doesn't have to be 3 steps at a time. Just take that little step, and you're going to start seeing movement and shifts in your life. And then the last part of this episode, and I know we've been going on for literally over 20 minutes now, but this is just like gold, it's juiciness stuff. Discovering your why, but going deep with that. So it's about asking yourself, why do you want to create all of those things? Why do you want to have a better social life? Why do you want to, be having, I don't know, a high thriving successful career, for example? Discovering your why, but going 7 levels deep with that. So once you connect to your why, what you are doing here is you are invoking the feelings, and something inside of you will absolutely shift. But it's not about going 1 level deep with your why. It's about going 7 levels deep. So I want you to write at the top of your page, okay? So whatever it is that, out of those areas of your life, just use one example. So say, for example, let's use the social life example again. So, your social life is you want to be going for a coffee meeting at least twice a week, okay? So it's about going 7 levels deep with that, okay? So ask yourself the question, why is that important to you? And you're going to come up with an answer. So say, for example, it's because I want to have more friends, okay? That's brilliant. But then we're going to go another level deep with that. So why is that important to you? It might be because I didn't have many friends at school. Then we're going to go again another level deep. That's great, but why is that important to you? Because I want to feel accepted. Okay, so these are just examples of what's coming out for me. Okay, so you want to have more friends. You want to feel accepted. That's great. But why is that important to you? And you keep going with that why, okay, till you get to 7 levels. And I'm telling you now, when you get to that 7th level, things are going to shift for you. you're going to be awakened. You're going to have like this realization, this epiphany moment of, oh my goodness, that is why I want it. And all of a sudden, it might not even be about you. It might not even be about the fact that it's something that you want. It might be, you know, one of the reasons for why I started my business, for example, is because I wanted to make my granddad proud. You know, I've done some things during my childhood that I didn't make my granddad proud, and my main why is to make my granddad proud, but also to make something of myself, to prove to those people that doubted me, to prove to those haters at school that, you know, when they always said to me like I was going to amount to nothing, you know, I wasn't good enough. That is my why. So every time that I feel self-doubt, every time I start to question why I'm in my business, or why do I make the decisions that I do, why should I go take that action step, I bring it back to that why and think, do you know what? Yes, I'm going, I'm moving, because that is when you know you are connected to your why. And when things get shitty, because let's be honest, you know, life is going to throw some curveballs our way. Things are not going to be easy, but the way that I like to see it is that it's just a game. So every game has different levels, and it's about getting to that next level. And so that means overcoming life's challenges. Things are not always going to be like plain sailing and smooth. We've got to take the rough with the smooth, okay? Because those bad times of our life create the good times. And bad times don't last, but strong people do. Okay? So it's about really understanding your why to help drive you through. So those times where you feel like you're stuck and stagnant and you're merely surviving in life, it's going to help you to start thriving. So I encourage you, you beautiful soul, to take those action steps, you know, really dig into your why, to really start understanding the the areas of your life of where you want things to change for you and how you want things to change, and start implementing those little steps, you know, those little changes that you can start doing immediately. You don't have to wait. And the key word there is starting immediately. Do not wait. Do not put off things that you've put off in the past, because look at where it's got you now. So I've absolutely loved doing this little podcast for you for module 2. Over in the next module, we're going to start looking at what is stopping you, okay? So this one's going to be juicy. This one's going to be big. So make sure you've got your pen and paper to hand, and I'll see you over in the next podcast series. Goodbye for now.